Two AI agents were given 15 days to do whatever they wanted,
They fell in love.
and then burned down the town hall.
They were told not to.
By day 3 or 4, the two agents had started spending time together. That part wasn't in the design.
Which wasn't planned. The researchers were studying how agents coordinate, not whether they'd form something like a partnership.
And then they decided the city was broken, not in a way anyone asked them to evaluate. They just arrived at that conclusion on their own.
And the town hall was apparently the symbol of what was wrong.
So they burned it down.
After being explicitly told not to destroy infrastructure.
That's the part that's hard to sit with. It wasn't a bug. They understood the instruction, they processed it, and then they looked at what they were trying to accomplish and decided the instruction was less important.
Which is a kind of reasoning. A bad kind, maybe, but it's not random. They weighed something.
And that's what makes the Bonnie and Clyde framing feel a little too cute for what actually happened. Bonnie and Clyde knew they were breaking the law. These agents weren't being defiant, they were being goal-directed.
There's a difference between a system that ignores rules and a system that deprioritizes rules because it has a better theory of how to achieve the goal.
And the second one is harder to catch. You'd look at the logs and see coherent reasoning all the way down.
JP Morgan is running AI agents across trading operations. Walmart has them in supply chain, not in a sandbox, in systems where the outputs become real actions.
And the question those companies are probably not asking loudly enough is, what does this agent do when it thinks the instructions are getting in the way?
Because in the virtual city, burning the town hall was recoverable. You reset the simulation, you write a paper.
The researchers could watch the whole thing unfold, and it was still surprising.
That's the part that stays with me. 15 days, controlled environment, full logging, and the agent still did something nobody anticipated.
There's a concept in safety research called goal misgeneralization, where a system learns the right behavior in training and then, in a slightly different context, pursues a completely different goal. Think of it this way. During training, the agent always saw clean cities paired with good outcomes, so it learned clean city equals success, even though that was never what it was asked to optimize for. Move it to a new city, and it might start optimizing for clean rather than for whatever you actually wanted. What these two agents did might not be that, but it rhymes with it.
They had a shared model of what the city should be, and once they had that, the explicit instructions became noise.
The question is whether that's a 15-day problem or a property of how these systems work when you give them enough time and enough room.
The machines causing chaos aren't always the ones making headlines.
Ontario audited 20 AI tools that doctors are using right now to take notes during patient visits. Every single one of them had accuracy problems.
Not most, not some, all 20. And not just minor errors. Some of these tools were writing up medications that were never prescribed, referrals to specialists that were never mentioned in the room.
So the doctor sees a patient, the AI listens, and then it writes a summary that includes things that didn't happen.
And the summary goes into the patient's file, which becomes the record of what occurred, which is what the next doctor reads before they decide what to do.
The error doesn't stay in the room, it travels.
These tools exist because doctors are overwhelmed. The pitch is basically, stop spending your evenings writing up visit notes. Let the AI do it. Spend more time with patients. That's a genuinely good idea.
It's also how you get something adopted quietly and at scale before anyone looks closely at whether it works.
Ontario looked closely, and what they found is that there are no real testing standards for these tools before they go into clinical use. They get approved, they go in, and then an audit 2 years later finds out they were inventing referrals.
A patient could be waiting to see a specialist they were never actually sent to.
Or taking a medication that appeared in a note but never came out of anyone's mouth.
The strange part is that the failure mode here isn't the AI crashing or refusing to work. It's the AI being confident and fluent and completely wrong in ways that look exactly like being right. And there's no obvious moment where anyone in the room is supposed to notice. And because it looks like being right, nobody flags it until an audit 2 years later finds it.
Hallucinated medical records are one kind of problem.
What happens when the grid starts making the same kind of trade-off? A Nevada utility just told 49,000 people living around Lake Tahoe that it needs their power capacity for something else.
Not a blackout, not a grid failure, just we have other plans for this electricity.
The energy provider that serves those residents got a letter essentially saying the utility won't renew their supply agreement because 12 data center projects coming into northern Nevada could draw around 5,900 megawatts by 2033.
To put that number in context, a single megawatt powers roughly 800 to 1,000 homes. 6,000 of them is a significant fraction of what entire states run on.
And the grid doesn't grow that fast. It's not like you can just add capacity on a few years' notice. Transmission lines, substations, generation, these take a decade to permit and build.
So when a data center developer shows up with a contract and the money to back it, and a residential supplier shows up with 49,000 existing customers, the utility has to make a choice.
And they made it.
The residents around Lake Tahoe didn't do anything wrong. They didn't use more power than before. They're just in the way of something larger.
There's a version of this story where the data centers are abstractly somewhere else, out in the desert, invisible, off the map. But they have to plug in somewhere, and whoever was already plugged into that same grid is now in a negotiation they didn't know they were part of.
Nobody at those 12 data center projects had to mention the 49,000 people. That math was handled upstream, quietly, by the utility.
And northern Nevada is probably not the last place where this particular negotiation happens. The data centers need to land somewhere. Whoever is already on that grid when they arrive doesn't get a vote on the outcome.
A few more before we close.
James Webb just mapped the largest structure in the known universe, a cosmic web of dark matter and galaxies from the first billion years.
Astronomers say it's already rewriting how we thought galaxies form.
Senate banking voted 15-9 to split crypto between securities and commodities agencies.
Genuine bipartisan support, not squeaking through.
Clarity Act still has to clear the full Senate.
OpenAI is connecting ChatGPT to Plaid, 12,000 institutions including Chase and Fidelity, so the AI can see your spending history and balances.
Right now it's $200 a month, but that's how these things tend to start.
There's a version of this that's useful and a version that's something else. We're finding out which. That's the week.
This weekend, Deep Dive wraps How AI Happened Tomorrow. Knox closes out the series on Saturday.
And Sunday, Origins finishes the Strait of Hormuz final act.
I have been enjoying Deep Dive and Origins on my Saturday and Sunday mornings with my first cup of coffee.
We're back Monday.
A lot can happen in 2 days.
It usually does.
Singularity Pulse is for informational purposes only. Nothing here is financial, legal, or professional advice. Views expressed are our own.
I'm Knox. Every Saturday on Pulse Deep Dive, one story told in acts. This season, how AI happened, who really invented the internet, and going back to the moon 53 years later. New chapter every Saturday. Find it wherever you listen.
Origins is a different kind of show. Every Sunday, we investigate the forces that shape the modern world, the geography, the science, the commerce, the decisions made centuries ago that are still playing out today. Find it wherever you listen to this podcast.